Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley today releasing documents showing the FBI suppressed intelligence on allegations of Chinese interference in the 2020 U.S. election because the Bureau wanted to protect its then Director Christopher Wray. On September 24, 2020, Wray testified in front of Congress that the FBI had not seen evidence of coordinated voter fraud ahead of the 2020 election. But according to emails, the very next day, September 25th, 2020, the FBI decided to block an investigation into allegations the Chinese government was producing tens of thousands of fraudulent driver's licenses to manufacture mail-in votes for then presidential candidate Joe Biden in the 2020 election. The documents show that despite showing signs of credibility, the allegations were never fully investigated, because doing so would contradict the testimony of Christopher Wray, and the probe was shut down to protect Wray from the fallout. In one email, an analyst from the FBI's Albany field office raised the alarm that this appeared political. Most concerning to me is stating the reporting would contradict with Director Wray's testimony. I found this troubling because it implied to me that one of the reasons we aren't putting this out is for a political reason. I do not feel it is our job to assess whether or not intelligence aligns with the director. So, Nikki, questions about the 2020 election? Still verboten, or does this open a whole nother can of worms?
Yeah, it really raises a lot of questions. You know, the FBI obviously beclowned themselves over the previous 4 years, from calling parents domestic terrorists to going after Catholics. And so this is just, exhibit 9052, right, of why big government is bad and why we have to question everything.
Christopher Wray, James Comey, they've been in the headlines lately. And of course, when Trump returns to office, he puts Kash Patel atop the FBI. There was a lot of hand-wringing about this. A loyalist, someone who will do Trump's bidding. What are we to make of Kash Patel now that we know more and more about Chris Wray and James Comey?
I've got to say that Kash Patel's his cup runneth over here. I mean, his basket is more than full. And where do you begin? How many confidential informants did they have on Capitol Hill on January 6th? Right? How many intelligence officials signed on to 51 is the correct answer? That letter. With John Brennan, the CIA director, who voted for the Communist Party candidate for president of the United States, to mislead the American people on the reporting, mostly by the New York Post, on Hunter Biden's laptop and Joe Biden being the big guy and getting 10%. Our federal government, our intelligence agencies, and the FBI tampering in our presidential elections on behalf of always the same thing, the Democrat Party and Joe Biden. And I got to say, the 2020 election, there are all kinds of interesting things to talk about. A record number of voters, and Donald Trump had more votes than any Republican ever, and still somehow Joe Biden got 15 million more votes. And then we see, again, Christopher Wray and the FBI closing ranks. Well, we don't want to talk about the Chinese communists sending tens of thousands of perfectly produced driver's licenses that people can use to get, in particular, mail-in ballots. And Joe Biden, once again, won the mail-in ballot race in all 50 states, while Donald Trump won the in-person ballots in all 50 states.
Yeah, Jason, how do you take this as a Democrat?
Take which part of it?
I mean, they're Chinese nationals creating licenses to give to individuals to vote for that
first
candidate.
Of all, we've seen all of these cases. They've all played out. There probably has been foreign interference in American elections for generations. But was it enough to sway an election? In 2020, it was not. Was it in 2016 when the Russians interfered? And that was proven that Russia interfered in 2016. Yet it was not enough to sway the election. I think Donald Trump won that election. And I'll tell you this, China really got a bad investment if they thought that they were going to do well with Joe Biden as president. Joe Biden is the guy who said he'll defend militarily. He will defend Taiwan. And they obviously didn't like to hear that, particularly coming with what he did for Ukraine. So
Joe Biden was the guy with family business ties to China.
Right.
Oh,
is that why you think he would want them to
business ties in China?
And his the Biden family doesn't have a business, though. That's other than peddling.
Joe Biden was the business.
Influence.
That's what they said.
Right.
Information, truth, is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.